Hello, I'm Oskar Sherleaf and you're watching the news from Kazakhstan, and here are the headlines. 11 border guards in East Kazakhstan region voluntarily left the border outposts. They were found 18 kilometers away from Chinese border. Prohibition to use the land and the house in religious purposes. Almaty authorities are in litigation with Ahmadiyya community. The actors of Aksaray Theatre are supporting their director. The troupe is preparing to stage a new play called Avalanche, written by the arrested Atabayev. Yet another incident at the Kazakh-Chinese border in eastern Kazakhstan. 11 border guards from Tersaik outpost, which is located near the Zhaisan town, voluntarily left the outpost. This happens amid tensions around Arkan-Kergen tragedy. Soldiers did not take firearms. The National Security Committee informed that the desertion was caused by hazing. In the evening of the same day, deserters were found and forcibly taken back to the outpost. More details in the next report.
Another incident at the border made the population of the country aware of the Tersaik outpost at the eastern part of the country. The outpost commanding officer reported 11 unarmed soldiers missing only at the end of the day. He had been trying to locate the border guards who had left in the morning of June 18th by himself, alas with no success. The escaped soldiers were found only by around noon, 15 kilometers away from the outpost, and have been sent back. In cases like this, when a lot of personnel leaves an outpost at once, usually there are two explanations. The first one is hazing from higher officers in the unit. The second is when the leadership of the units wants to reinstate order and discipline. The military prosecutor's office has already launched a case on the charges of power abuse by the officials in unit command. At the same time, it is pointed out that it is too early to talk about the responsibility of the unit leadership. Nevertheless, in light of the recent tragedy at Arkan-Kergen, public debate on the matter sparked new interest. Internet users do not believe the official explanation for the events at the Tersaik outpost. The similarities with Chelak's case are not in favor of the prosecution's version either. 11 border guards, despite hazing, did not even try to kill their offenders. It seems that all this is just a lie. They just want to make us believe that this was hazing, drawing away people's attention from the real tragedy of the Arkan-Kergen attack. Notice that no one killed anyone because of hazing, although 11 armed men can kill 100, but they just left unarmed. And now just think how plausible the official lead with the sole survivor as a culprit is. The second part of this play is the planned escape, staged so that people would believe that Chelak is really guilty, and there is a huge problem with hazing. Supposedly people kill each other and flee premises because of that. This should push people towards assumptions about the motives of the initial massacre. Awful, barbaric, yet another conscription 1/11 and yet another remote border outpost. What kind of hazing is even possible there? They were senior military conscripts. This incident is done to completely discredit the Border Patrol Agency. We'll see what the soldiers say when they will be found. Citizens of the country have opposing opinions about whether hazing is practiced at border units, but many of the capital's residents polled believe hazing is a good distraction tactic. Many are saying there's hazing there. Our youth serve there, and we worry about them. We hope they won't be hard and come back in good health. Hard to believe there's hazing in border units. They're all armed. Border service, the name says it all. They're serving at the border. They're protecting our motherland, our people. There's no hazing there. Just like with Arkan-Kergen, what really happened at Tersaik is a mystery. The investigation is yet again trying to figure out the reasons for the incident on the Kazakhstan-China border, but the belief that the country's boundaries are well protected has been seriously shaken among the population.
The primary leads of the tragedy at Arkan-Kergen outposts, which are being presented by the public, significantly differ from the official ones. Some analysts are confident that the border guards were killed by the relative of the highest-ranking official of the country. Supposedly, soldiers accidentally became witnesses of illegal VIP hunt in the mountains. Others say that 15 soldiers have fallen victims of inter-clan clashes of the president's administration. Supposedly, this way the heads of ministries are trying to frame one another. Details in the next report.
The authorities themselves are the primary cause of the rumors and speculations about the Arkan-Kergen tragedy. The official explanation for the events has not been accepted by many people. Experts and journalists rushed to search for answers from the trusted sources in the military. One of the early versions, published by website kuljan.org, linked an influential military general to the attack on the outpost, with all signs pointing towards one of the closest relatives of the president. Kuljan.org has not disclosed any names, just like the former Senator Walikhan Kaysarov, who said that the incident was nothing but a regular drunk accident. The senator suggested that on May 20, 26, a high-ranking official and his entourage came to the outpost for illegal hunting, and the shots were heard by the park huntsman. Officials failed to bribe the honest huntsman and just killed him. They also had to kill all witnesses, the border soldiers. Hunting was the starting point. It was done at an illegal place and illegal time, and naturally the park huntsmen, in their understanding, ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time. Yet another explanation connects the massacre with clan infighting, allegedly between the president's administration chief Aslan Muhsin and the National Security Committee head Nurtai Abakayev. Thus, a national-scale incident at the outpost under the NSC control is a serious blow to Muhsin's competitor, the source says. Politician Amirjan Kosanov also heard about recent outbursts of activity by the elites close to the nation's leader. The approaching biological and political post-Nazarbayev era forces these clans to be more active. Possibly it is not yet noticeable. However, no one can say that these clans are not making plans for the post-Nazarbayev period. There is also a third version of events. It is not as sinister as the previous ones, but it is not as simple either. Some internet users believe the reason to be interagency fighting. Many found the verbosity of the interior minister during the first days after the incident too suspicious. Why would a head of an agency that is not responsible for it or involved in the investigation be so generous with his commentary? Kalmukhanbek Kasumov and his people have set Abakayev up, say internet users, but the former servicemen are not sure about this. National security, the NSC is always stronger. Their forces are more experienced. They have more opportunities. They have more information than the MIA. The Interior Ministry is responsible for internal things, but the NSC is always NSC. There are arguments in favor of all three explanations. Observers, though, agree on one thing. Whatever really happened at the Arkan outpost, the population will probably learn the truth only after the most influential figures retire.
The relatives of Karaganda Buragat, who is accused of killing 15 people, will not travel to Moscow to participate in famous Russian Malakhov's Pust Govoryat talk show. Nevertheless, according to the grandfather of Vladimir Chelakh, Vladislav, they are not wasting time and collecting money to pay for the lawyer, who will cost them $15,000. But so far they were unable to collect the necessary amount.
Chelakh relatives have also appealed to Soldiers' Mothers Foundation, expecting a reply. Vladimir Chelakh no longer counts on help from the infamous Russian talk show Pust Govoryat, saying that the showrunners only became interested in the issue after the tragedy got headlined in the Russian media, even promising to cover all travel expenses. After that, they never called back, and Vladimir Chelakh decided not to go to Moscow after all. They just stopped calling and we refused. There's no point in waiting. I think they were told not to intervene in issues that don't concern them. And I thought it's actually better this way, because it's not good to make a show out of people's misery. They wouldn't let us to tell the whole story, and they wouldn't help us anyway.
The trial of former mayor of Zhanaozen, Orak Sarbapeyev, resumed in Aktau. To recap, he's accused of abuse of office, receiving of a bribe in especially large amounts, and intention to commit a crime, an attempted crime. The hearings resumed, chaired by the judge of specialized courts on criminal cases of Mangistau region, Leskhan Baygulov, with the newly selected jury.
As with all Aktau trials, the proceedings against the former Zhanaozen mayor Orak Sarbapeyev began with a ban on all photo and video recordings, except for the first 10 minutes of the hearing. After that, the court proceeded to a jury selection. Out of 48 candidates, 3 were immediately dismissed because they didn't speak Kazakh. Other candidates asked the judge to exempt them from duty, mostly for family reasons. When only 17 people remained, the judge announced the draw and selected the final 12 jurors. After the lunch break, the floor was given to the state prosecutor, who read the investigation case files based for the charges against the former mayor. According to investigation, Sarbapeyev misappropriated over $700,000 of budget funds. Later, the prosecutor moved to questioning of witnesses, none of whom confirmed the accusations. Comparison to previous trials, the courtroom was practically empty this time. To recap, on May 6, the prosecutors requested to restart the trial due to a video evidence showing several jurors talking with the family of the defendant. The trial will continue on Wednesday at 9:30 a.m.
The troupe of Bolat Atabayev's theatre Aksaray is supporting its head. Actors are actively collecting signatures and appeal to cultural elite. They hope that those who know Bolat Atabayev will help to fight for his freedom. The neighbors of Bolat Atabayev would also like to influence the investigation and think that Atabayev fell victim because of his humanity. Next report has more.
Sometime between 9:30 and 10, I heard someone screaming and asking for help. I looked out the window and there were 3 men outside. At first I couldn't tell what was going on. It seemed like some young guys were fighting. But when I looked closer and saw a man on the ground, I recognized our neighbor who lives across. The neighbors of famous stage director recall how 4 days ago 3 men in civilian clothes put a 60-year-old Atabayev in a tight arm lock, and when he fell down they grabbed him by the hair and pushed him into the car. More observant residents told reporters that their famous neighbor was under surveillance a day before the arrest. Everyone now wonders why the artist and simply a good neighbor was treated in such a cruel manner. My grandsons are orphans. I asked Atabayev to help me with one of them. He said he could mentor him for free and if my grandson had theatrical skills. He's a very nice person. This is Atabayev's favorite song, say actors of Atabayev's theater Aksaray, whom the stage director often referred to as his children. This theater family is 10 years old. First Atabayev taught them, then helped to solve their problems, and later created a theater where they now perform his plays. For many people, for the Aksaray theater, and for me personally, he's like a father. He's a kind man, very sympathetic, and has a very big heart. He's helped many people. It would be nice if they'd remember this at the moment like this. And to remind them, Aksaray Theater will perform the Avalanche play, although without its director. The play tells people that it's time to change the system and release the fears. One of the most distinguished works of Balat Atabayev will be shown to culture elite and politicians, followed by a press conference to collect signatures in director's support. When people come to see our performance, we'll make them aware of this letter and hopefully have them sign it. Then we'll take it from there. Actors of Aksaray Theater emphasize they don't deal with politics and their job is theater and art, yet they're going to do something about the arrest of Balat Atabayev. They believe they can help the director's release and hope to stage new plays, since their mentor always has many ideas.
The relatives of Almaty resident Denis King are appealing to the president and to the public. On June 7th, a Wizz of court concluded the proceedings over his beating and subsequent death. The main figurant is the ex-financial police officer Galim Shadekirimov, who was convicted for hooliganism and pardoned in the courtroom. His friend Nurmakhan Duambekov took all the blame for the incident and got sentenced to 8 years in penal colony. The rest of the accused were turned into witnesses.
"7 months ago, Alyona Kang couldn't even imagine that she will be standing at her husband's grave. She wanted to have children just like many other newlyweds, yet she didn't get to rock the cradle. Instead, now she has to make vows according to Korean customs." Do you know what it feels like to see the grave of your own husband? We are here bowing to him and this is just so unfair. This should not have been like this. Denis Kang died on December 5, 2011, right in front of his stepfather Alexander Lomako. At a press conference held by the family, Lomako recalled how 4 drunken men started trouble because his car was parked in front of the entrance to the apartment block. "It was 5 in the morning when I called Denis and told him that I've arrived. I thought he would come down and we would leave right away. In the meantime, a car pulled up behind us. A drunk man came up to me and started banging on my car, forcing to pull up forward. He threatened me with bodily harm using foul language. In the ensuing fight, Denis sustained fatal injuries and died the same morning in the intensive care unit of the local hospital. Later, it was revealed that one of the offenders, Galim Shadekirimov, is a former chief of the Financial Police Department's operational division, with the rest of his group, Duambekov, Shelikbayev, and Sergebayev, holding much lower-ranked positions. The family of Denis Kang was confident in the outcome of the trial, as there was direct evidence of a group assault. Nonetheless, the court made an unexpected ruling. In the end, one of these bastards was turned into a witness. We emphasized that murder was requalified as a simple hooliganism, and only 1 out of the 3 instigators was sentenced to 8 years in prison. We were shocked. The fight indeed took place, and Shadekirimov was intoxicated along with his friends, admit the defense representatives. However, there was also a third party involved in the fight, says attorney Gennady Knam. The investigation failed to identify them, yet the judge took this into account and delivered a relatively lenient verdict. There were unidentified individuals who beat Denis Kang outside his apartment, but in a different location about 100 meters away from the point of the initial fighting. These men were never found nor detained, and the case was formed into a separate court proceeding. Dennis Gang's family, along with the reporters, responded to this revelation. The investigators still cannot give answers to their questions, and even the attorney of the former financial police officer had nothing to tell them. The forensic examination report says that he had 18 fatal blows and injuries. Do you think Duambekov could have done it alone? So is this a fair trial? The family of Dennis Gang had to refer to the media as a last resort. At first, they didn't want to turn to the public, as they were confident in the outcome of the trial. Now they appeal to the president, prosecutor general, and other supreme authorities. They also file an appeal to a municipal court, demanding to review the verdict and punish those responsible for the death of the 23-year-old Almaty resident.
One man against corruption. Pensioner Vladimir Natochi came out on a second protest action in Almaty on Tuesday. He demands the immediate punishment of guilty officials and dishonest employer.
I will not leave this place, even if the police come for me. I will start a hunger strike here. I am a man of principle, I am persistent, I am tired of going 300 kilometers back and forth. I chose this location as the company professional is based in the area supervised by the Almaty administration. Let the administration, the prosecutor's office, the tax inspection do their work. You know they should do the work they're supposed to do by law. We, the taxpayers, pay them, and they never ever think about us. Vladimir Natochi believes that picketing Almaty administration is the only way to resolve the problem with the bureaucrats. The man says that because of a company that was practicing double accounting, his pregnant daughter had been fired and now cannot claim benefits to take care of the child. Natochi brought along a bag full of various letters, vague official responses collected for several years. His poster says, "Sue the corrupt officials," and evidently it attracted the attention of sympathetic city residents. We need to elect judges, not have them appointed. That's right. Otherwise it will all be nepotism and corruption, with God knows who becoming the judge. They should be elected by the people for a term of no more than 3 years. The authorities will never let people elect judges, because they believe people are ignorant cattle. It is impossible to live like this. Impossible.
Trials continue against the Almaty Ahmadiyya community. The land board filed a lawsuit against the community, banning them from using the land lot and residential building for religious purposes. The confrontation between the officials and the Ahmadiyya has been going on for months. However, Tuesday's court session was still postponed.
This house on Khlebная Street in Almaty used to host weekly Friday prayer meetings of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. Rufat Tukamov is the local education work secretary. He lives here with his wife and 2 kids. There used to be a prayer room in the children's room a few months ago, enough for up to 15 people. A few months ago, Rufat was told it was illegal to pray to Allah in this room. In spring, the land committee banned Ahmadiyya from using the premise for religious services. Rufat assures that since then, community members have not convened in the house. However, the land committee representatives don't believe him. Concerned with the presence of imams' portraits, books, and computers, officials now go through court to make sure the premise is not used for unauthorized purposes. There's a whole community there. They have books for studying religion and all the accompanying conditions. It is sad, of course. They're making a big deal out of it, saying we gather in crowds to pray, but we prayed and we will keep praying. We will be accountable to God only and not to the government. The Ahmadiyya community has several million followers around the world, with only 500 in Kazakhstan. Ahmadiyya believe that the second advent of God has already taken place. They consider their founder, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, who lived in the 19th century, a messiah of the new time. For this reason, Orthodox Muslims consider Ahmadiyya's deviants. This is not the first time the authorities are cracking down on Ahmadiyyas. In spring last year, the community in Shymkent was also banned from using a land lot and a house for religious purposes. Neighboring Kyrgyzstan went even further and outlawed the followers of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad in the country. There seems to be a contradiction in the constitution that gives the man freedom of religion, and then there are some substatutory acts which totally abolish religious freedom. We are concerned that this is all done to prevent us from registering according to new laws. The Ahmadiyyas will need to re-register their movement in accordance with the new law on religious activities in religious communities. The law enacted in October last year tightened regulations for registration of religious cults. Officially, 579 small-scale religious groups had to cease their activities in the country. The Ahmadiyyas are afraid they will share the same fate. Meanwhile, Rufat Tukamov and his community are preparing to defend their religious rights in court on July 10th.
Russian Orthodox Church spokesman Vladimir Ligoida, responsible for its information policy, held explanatory talks in Almaty on Tuesday. He spoke about how journalists should cover the topic of religion in the media.
My main advice is not a complaint, but a genuine advice to my colleagues. Be material, so to speak, while covering religious events. If you write news about the church, you should do the research and know terminology. Unfortunately, there are some people who don't do the research and still feel they are qualified to tell the Patriarch what to do. The visit of Vladimir Ligoida is not a casual event. After a series of several recent scandals, it appears the Russian Orthodox Church is committed to restoring its shaken public image. The first blow was delivered by the Russian feminist punk rock band Pussy Riot, which performed their anti-Putin prayer in the Christ the Savior Cathedral in March of this year. In response, the Patriarch asked a severe punishment for the arrested band members, causing a backlash from a part of the Russian population, which delivered the Russian Orthodox Church was pursuing interests of the authorities. Another scandal was triggered by the appearance of Patriarch's picture with his expensive watch photoshopped out, but its reflection remaining intact. At the time, the head of the Russian Orthodox Church said the pictures were fake and explained that he did own the watch in question, although did not wear it on that particular occasion.
Head of the Ministry of Economic Development, Bakhidjan Sagintayev, offered to revive consumer unions at a cabinet meeting on Tuesday.
The officials vote for the return of old proven system because they want to eliminate the unproductiveness of middlemen in the supplier-consumer chain. However, since the project is under development, Bakhidjan Sagintayev, the Minister of Economic Development and Trade, was not able to explain the process of creation of consumer cooperatives and its chances for becoming another bureaucratic chain and source of corruption. On the other hand, the official didn't forget to mention the advantages of the project that farmers might enjoy. These include much higher procurement prices and subsidies. In our proposal, we are offering to create consumer cooperatives and through them to provide subsidies and government support. In such case, everyone, and not only currently operating farms, but also private households, will receive government support.
The Russian ruble could become the common currency of the Eurasian Union, said Speaker of the Russian Council of the Federation, Valentina Matvienko, on Tuesday. She noted that the ruble has a more stable exchange rate, is recognized across the world and has a wider area of circulation. Matvienko expressed her opinion on the heels of Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev's statement, who suggested thinking about a common currency of the prospective Eurasian Union member states, Kazakhstan, Russia and Belarus.
We need to think about the creation of a single national currency. The Prime Minister of Russia did actually say this. He proposes the common currency within the Eurasian Union in a couple of years. This despite the fact that out of all integration projects, only the customs union came to life. Economist Sergei Zhavorenkov believes that common currency project is unfeasible. Belarus, for instance, has 200% inflation rate per year. The question is, what is the interest of Russia and Kazakhstan here? It is similar to the role of Greece in the European Union, where both influence over each other. The Economist sees the proposal of the Russian Prime Minister as more politically motivated than economically. In his opinion, talks about integration is nothing more than a method to attract voters who are nostalgic about the USSR. Besides, these initiatives are easy to forget. Who will remember what Medvedev said a year from now? For example, no one remembers that Putin and Lukashenko agreed on the creation of a single currency in 2004. Thus, it looks like there's nothing new under the sun. The idea of creating a union, once proposed by Nazarbayev, is actively promoted by the Russian authorities this year. Vladimir Putin himself has devoted a separate section about the Eurasian integration in his presidential election program, where he described what he really wants from such an endeavor. We are not talking about resurrecting the Soviet Union in one form or another. Trying to restore or copy what is left in the past is naive, but closer integration on the new political, economical, and value basis is imperative. We propose a model of a powerful supranational union. This means that the customs union and common economic space will be used as a foundation for further closer coordination of economic and monetary policies, and for the creation of a full-scale economic union. Political scientist Alexei Malashenko has a simple explanation for such support of the Eurasian integration in Russian foreign policy.
Я совершенно не верю ни в какой Евразийский союз.
I don't believe in any Eurasian Union. I deeply doubt that even the customs union will work effectively. Kazakhstan also realizes this. Prime Minister Masimov, etc. What will happen is that this customs union, the Eurasian Union, all this is a form of Russian-Kazakh relations, very productive for both countries.
Вот весь этот и таможенный союз, и Евразийский союз, все это форма российско-казахстанских отношений.
A member of the Russian Federation Council, Vladimir Zhabarov, has quite a different perspective on this matter. In his opinion, the integration processes do work, and the common currency may actually appear on the horizon. The only question is how to implement everything. There is no need to force events. There was a discussion in one of the hotels with the ex-Prime Minister of Russia, Yevgeny Pribakov, as a speaker. I believe the idea of the common currency is a good one, but everything should be done gradually. Gradually means by 2015. Although the time frame is determined, the world and European financial crisis will determine their own time frames. The common currency could be established only during the time of financial stability, which is quite shaky even for the EU, the one entity always cited as an example when it comes to creating the Eurasian Union.
This is all we have time for now. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned.